as well, and then we will be good to go. And it looks like my Facebook is like super zoomed in, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but fine, 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 fine. And I wanted to give us all a little bit of a break from all of the everything that is going on right now in the world, and give us a little bit of break here, a little bit of a break here to talk about business stuff and things of that nature. And um, I wanted to talk about when an opportunity is presented to you as a business owner, how to know if it's actually a good opportunity to take. Because a lot of the time, especially when we're newer business owners, we kind of are just given all of these opportunities, and people see us starting our business and they want to support us. And they're like, oh my goodness, like, let me give this person an opportunity. Let me see how I can collaborate with them. Let me see how I can impact their reach, and vice versa. And that feels so, so, so exciting. But sometimes those opportunities actually aren't aligned for us. And sometimes we, because the opportunity is put in front of us, we just look at the excitement of it and we don't actually analyze what is the heart here and how this will actually impact things moving forward. So you have all these opportunities being offered. You feel excited because people are noticing you. You feel like you're liked. You're getting all of these different options presented to you. And so it's really important to know and to take a like deeper look at what is actually important here within this opportunity, and how will this help you in the future, and if it's a partnership with somebody else, how will it help them as well. So I want to call this into question because, again, especially when we're newer, we're given all of these opportunities and we're given all of these new things. And some of them are great opportunities to take advantage of, but some of them actually aren't. And in the end, they become like significant burdens for us, whether they're burdens for our business or burdens for our personal lives. So it's really important that we kind of take a really analytical look at the opportunities that are presented to us, because just because something is presented to us doesn't actually mean that it's a good opportunity for us or that it's aligned. And every opportunity is going to look shiny and glowy and awesome and exciting, but is it actually, at the end of the day, something that we actually want to be aligned with? And a good example of that is the requests that we get through email or through DM that say, hey, I can help you grow XYZ if you share my stuff on your profile, or if you do this marketing for me for free, or if you photograph this thing for us for free or for exposure. And so does that feel exciting that somebody has reached out to us and has noticed us? Yes. But is that something that we want to be involved in long term? Probably not, right? Because we're, at the end of the day, the benefit is more on the side of the other person than it is on us, right? So these things do need to be called into question, not only because of their benefit, but also because just because something is there doesn't mean that it has to be taken advantage of. Just because something is there and is offered doesn't mean that you have to jump into it. And so opportunities a lot of the time can actually become distractions from our real calling, or they can become distractions from what we actually need to be working on. So maybe we're super involved in or we want to be super involved in jumping into some sort of online summit, and we're offering trainings in there, but we know at the end of the day we actually need to be creating our own trainings. And so what happens there, that distraction is an opportunity, a great opportunity, right? But it's distracting you from your end goal. It's distracting you from actual business building activities or money making activities. And there also needs to be this idea here where it's not a requirement for you to take advantage of every opportunity presented to you. You can say no. And you can say no graciously, and you can say no thankfully. You know, you can say, this really isn't a great fit for me right now, but I really appreciate the opportunity. If it really isn't a good fit for you. And so, how can you evaluate these things? How can you actually look at these opportunities that are presented to you and determine whether or not they're going to actually be a good fit for you? Determine whether or not they're going to be a good fit not only for you now, but building for future you and for your future of your business. And so, first of all, I want you to check your gut, right? When somebody presents you with an opportunity, What does your gut tell you? Are you automatically like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, this super aligns with me? Or are you kind of like, I don't know about this doesn't necessarily feel great, this feels like more of an obligation to me? And when you check your gut, it is going to be something that it may feel exciting, but there's a difference between like your gut being in alignment here and you just being excited, right? So number one, do that. But number two, sit with it for 24 hours. So I'm a big proponent of doing things before you're ready and doing things before you feel like you need to like hop into whatever. But this is a little bit different, right? When I say you need to work on doing things before you're ready, that is doing like this kind of stuff, hopping on live, right? Before you're ready. You'll never be ready to hop on live. Never. It's never going to feel like a ready time for you, right? But it's different when somebody presents you with an opportunity and you just sit with it for 24 hours. Sit with it for 24 hours and see if at the end of the 24 hours you feel the same way about it as you did at the beginning, as you did when it was first presented to you. If you feel the same way, then that is a good indicator of how you're going to feel throughout the entire process of the opportunity and actually taking advantage of it and being a part of it or not, right? And I think too, it's really important not to only determine the pros and cons, but to also determine the expectations and the responsibilities, which may require that you have to ask the person giving the opportunity to you more questions. You know, after you sit with it for 24 hours and you're still not sure, you can come back to that person and say, hey, I'm still thinking about this stuff. Thank you so much for your patience. Can you answer these 5 questions for me? Right? And so when you're thinking about expectations and responsibilities over and above and in addition to pros and cons, you have to think, is this something you'll be able to do in excellence? Will you be able to show up well and not just phone it in? If you're promising an excellent service, will you be able to deliver an excellent service? And an excellent service really should be excellent from beginning to end, from onboarding to offboarding, right? If you're selling wedding photography and you want to take on an opportunity to work with somebody, if you take on this wedding photography client, are you going to be able to show up well for them, or are you strapped already, right? If you've told yourself, I'm only going to take on 20 weddings this year, and you know that's like your top, your max, you can't show up well if you take more than 20. If you take 21, what are the responsibilities and expectations there? You have a responsibility to show up well for your clients. That's your responsibility. Their responsibility is to pay you and to work in collaboration with you. But your responsibility is to show up well for them. You know, you can't just take people's money and then be like, okay, I'm just going to see you on your wedding day. There needs to be more to it, especially if you're charging high ticket prices. And then you also have to think, does the opportunity match up with your goals and ideals as a business owner? Not only for now, but for the future, right? So if you take on this opportunity now, what kind of a foundation is it laying for you for the future? Is it laying a foundation of more reach? Is it laying a foundation of more potential clients, right? Or is it laying a foundation of obligation, of being involved in industries that you don't really want to be involved in? You know, sometimes we get stuck in this like crisis mode of current planning. So when we're like, oh my gosh, it's winter, right? It's winter. And so we don't have a lot of money as wedding photographers right now because not a lot of people get married in the winter, right? So you're like, oh my goodness, here's an opportunity. I need to take it. And it might be something that's actually not aligned with you, that you really don't want to do. And because you really don't want to do it, but because it's an opportunity that's been presented to you and you need the money, or you think you need the money, then you show up, but you show up crappy. And that does nobody any favors. Not you, not your clients, not the people that will see you there that day. You know? And when we stay in this like crisis mode within our now, we actively block our ability to access the up level in our lives for the future of us and our business. So I want to give you some examples because I've talked about this very like broadly, very generally, but I want to give you some examples of things that could happen in the wedding industry, could happen in most industries, honestly, so that you can actually take a look at and know what I would take into consideration if I were to be a part of these types of situations. So one example I have is that, you're a wedding photographer, your niche is wedding photography, you love working with weddings and couples, but somebody gives you an opportunity to photograph an event, not a wedding, but some other sort of event, maybe a party, maybe a gala, maybe some other sort of event. And what I would ask myself is this what I want to get into in the future? Is this something that will lay a foundation for me to start to create reach for the future in this area? Do I want to photograph other events, or am I happy with my weddings? What will this solidify for me? Will this solidify that I like doing these other events, or will this solidify that I really don't? Right? What is the rate of pay? Is it appropriate? What will this do for future me? What will this do for the future of my business? If I take on this other event, will I want other people to see me there and give me more business similar to that event? Or will I feel burdened when I get other inquiries for that? What prep is required? Am I going to need to go there and scope everything out? Am I going to need to meet with people who are planning this event? What prep is required? What level of service will I be able to show up in? Will I be dreading this? Will I be excited about this? How do you envision, and how would I envision, showing up and feeling before the event, during the event, and after the event? Am I going to be excited to be a part of this event, both before and during? And am I going to be pumped to deliver the photos after? Or am I going to dread going to the event, feel tired the entire time of the event because I don't want to be there, and then at the end of the day, not feel super great about the photos that I deliver? Right? So you have to think about these things for that example. There are other things to consider for other examples. So another example that could come up is an opportunity to be in partnership with another person or another business. And so when you're going into partnerships, it's really important to look at that as both at the high level and at the granular level. So at the high level, it may look really cool for you to be in partnership with somebody and offer a package price for something, right? But at the granular level, what is that going to be like? So again, how will you feel before, during, and after? In all aspects within the partnership. Before the partnership, during the partnership, once the partnership dissolves, before an event that you're working with that partner, during an event that you're working with that partner, and after. What are you going to feel like? And I mean, there's something to be said here too, that different partnerships are different, right? So like some that I've seen are like a photographer and a videographer, a photographer and a planner, a photographer and maybe like a gown shop, right? But with partnerships, it's really important to look at that opportunity and think, is this mutually beneficial? Or is this primarily going to benefit one over the other? Is my partnership with another person going to primarily benefit them? Or am I also going to receive the same amount of benefit in being in partnership with them? What's the booking timeline like? So if you're a photographer, you know that with weddings, primarily, people will first book their venue and then their photographer. And so if you're going to be in partnership with somebody who doesn't match or isn't aligned or within the same sphere as your booking timeline, it probably wouldn't make sense for you to be in partnership with those people. It would make sense for photography and videography. It probably would not make sense for photography and a gown shop, right? Because the booking timeline is very different. You have to think also, what are the expectations of the parties? So what are your expectations? What are the partner's expectations? And then what's the expectation of the client? What sort of an an image are you giving to the client when you're in partnership with somebody? You have to think, will you feel comfortable essentially representing both brands? So even though you could have your own brand, the other person can have their own brand, separate contracts, separate agreements, but there's still an element of partnership there, right? And so are you comfortable also feeling like a representative for somebody else's brand, good or bad? So when I'm asking these questions, these are questions that can go either way, and no way is wrong, but they're questions that should be asked, right? And then also with partnerships, a lot of the time, when you create a partnership with somebody and another organization, discounts are brought up. Do you want to be discounting your services? Is this as much of a win-win for you here that you're willing to discount your services so that you can be in partnership? Is the win that much of a win for you, right? Is the discount significant, or can it be only a small amount of money? Or are there add-ons that you could add instead of a discount? So these are all things that I would personally think about before going into partnership with somebody. And again, is it a great opportunity? Yeah. But is it one that is meant for you? Maybe not. So that's something to think about as well. And then another thing to think about is if you're in the wedding industry and you're approached for mentorship or coaching. So something that I do, right? And I'll be honest, the first time somebody asked me if I would mentor them, I told them no. And I thought about it. I gave myself a little bit of time and I thought about it, and then I really determined this really isn't for me in this season right now. But that doesn't mean it wasn't never, right? That doesn't mean that it was never going to be an option for me, right? So again, I go back to this question of how will you feel before, during, and after? How will you feel as you're preparing to mentor people? How are you feeling during the mentorship process? And how are you feeling after? Right? There's always going to be an element of, tiredness and a little bit of drain when you coach and mentor, right? Because it's a very, relational, energetic relationship. But how do you feel after? How will you feel after? How can you envision yourself feeling after? Right? And this is a hard one, right? What are your core motivations here? When we're approached for mentorship and when we're told, hey, can you mentor me or can you coach me? That feels like, wow, somebody wants me to coach them. And it's like an ego trip, You're like, wow, somebody trusts me enough. And it's a beautiful thing that they trust you enough. But within that trust, there's also responsibility. A deep, deep, deep responsibility. So are your core motivations ego, pride? And what I just described there doesn't feel so yucky, right? But it does require excavation here. Why am I choosing to mentor people? Is it because I want to feel good and I feel good when I mentor people? Or is it because I'm able to and I am desiring to help other people grow in the same ways that I have? Are you considering mentorship and becoming a mentor and becoming a coach because you feel like you need to pivot? That's happened a lot this year, where people have said, I'm not able to bring in my normal income because of the pandemic, so I need to pivot, I need to do something different. And it's easy to hop into the coaching world. It's really easy. It's easier than you think. That's good and bad, right? And so what are your motivations there? If you need to pivot, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it also has to be in marriage with how you, what you want for outcomes for your people, how you want to serve people. Or is it at the end of the day because you just really want to see people succeed? These are questions to ask, right? So here's the opportunity. Somebody asks you, will you mentor me? And it's important to sit with that because there is a huge responsibility here. When I mentioned before how you feel before, during, and after, I also want to bring up, how will you be able to show up before, during, and after? Are you committed, and are you able to be committed to maintaining relationships with these people before, during, and after? Can you cheer them on? Are you able to be in community with them and mentor them without feeling like you're in competition with them? There's a lot in this opportunity, right? And this one I'm harping on a lot because, to me, this is a very easy opportunity to access, right? Sometimes it's easier to access mentorship and coaching opportunities and hopping into that realm as the mentor and the coach than it is for partnerships, and then it is for random things that get thrown your way. But it's also really responsible here, or it's really your responsibility here for you to look at, do you have the evidence of what you do and have done for others, and are you not just copying others? There will always be an element of kind of passing on what you've learned and putting your own spin on it, right? But are you planning, when you mentor people, are you planning to kind of do exactly what maybe one of your own coaches has taught you? Or do you actually have something proprietary that you can share with people? Do you have something that you can bring to the table and say, this has worked really well for me, and I've learned this on my own, right? And that's not going to be with everything. I'm not saying that you can only bring what you know to the table, but we have to be really careful that we're not just regurgitating information instead of actually putting it into practice ourselves, right? And I've seen some interesting rhetoric in some online worlds that, this person has paid for and signed up for and learned from various educational resources and people, and they now want to offer mentorship as well and coaching as well. And the way that they have spun it has been, I've spent all this money, and now I spent all this money, I've invested all this time and money into this for my own self, and now I want to pass it down to you. Is that inherently bad? No. But we have to be careful that we're not just trying to repackage and sell at a cheaper rate what somebody else has taught us. Because we have the responsibility here, over and above our business success, of making sure that we're taking care of people and people well. What is your responsibility here? How will your clients benefit? How will their lives change? How will their businesses change? This is a huge responsibility. When people hop into the coaching world because it's an opportunity that's presented to them, and they're not consistent, they don't show up well, they get overwhelmed, they don't know how to handle objections, they let somebody's aggravation talk into their worth, they forget about trainings that they have scheduled. What's happening here, right? So we really need to be very, very, very mindful that when a coaching opportunity is presented to us, in us being the coach, that we realize we have a deep, deep, deep responsibility to the clients that have been gifted to us. It's not just about selling packages. It's not just about, saying, you're going to do great. There's much deeper work to be had here. And then I think, again, you have to, do you have an actual plan, or are you planning on just throwing stuff together and hoping it sticks? There has to be an element of preparation as well. It can't just be opening a Facebook group and hoping people just flow in. That's not going to work, and it's not going to work because you're not intentional, your people aren't going to be intentional. You get what you give every single time. Every single time. The responsibility level is different here. So those are a few of the opportunities that I've seen kind of pop up in the photography world and how I would personally evaluate them. if they were to be given to me. And like I said, there have been times where, like, these are things that have actually happened in my own life. People have come to me and asked me to photograph events, and I have sat with it and I've decided this is not actually what I want to go into because I've asked myself these questions. I've also, before I learned all of this, I actually would say yes to some of these things because there was an element of obligation, and it was never a good time. It never resulted in anything, and it just became a distraction from what I actually needed to be focusing on. You know, all this time I was spending preparing to go photograph this event that I really, didn't really have a heart for. I could have been working with other clients that I really did have a heart for, right? I have been approached for partnership opportunities, but when I sat with it and I really thought about it and I thought these questions through, am I comfortable representing somebody else's brand? No. Straight up, no, I'm not. I am not comfortable with that because I know my work ethic and my level of service, but I can't always know what another person's level of service is going to be. And people have asked me to mentor, right? And that has become a significant part of my life and a significant part of my business. But the first time somebody asked me, I told them no, because I thought these things through. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't prepared. I didn't feel, confident in my coaching abilities yet. And when you say yes on the spot to things, you don't allow yourself the grace of basically doing your homework to know how well this will work. So you need to give yourself that 24-hour time frame. You need to think to yourself and give yourself that grace of writing out your pros and cons, but writing out your expectations and your responsibilities. With every opportunity, there's responsibility. With every opportunity, there is expectation. And so you need to know from soup to nuts what those are going to be in order for you to make an informed decision about whether or not an opportunity is a good fit for you. And there's something also too, will this opportunity be business building and truly client serving? Or will it just be a distraction again? Right? We have to be careful not to hop into every opportunity just because it's there. There will be more and there will be better. And every time we say no to an opportunity, it gets us closer to a better one. It leaves space open for a better one. I can't tell you how many times I've agreed to something and just was so bummed that I agreed to something because a better opportunity came along later. But because I didn't have that confidence that all things work together for good, because I didn't have that confidence that I wouldn't be presented another and better opportunity, I took the first one that came along and it wasn't the right one. Did I die? No, I did not die. But it taught me this, and it's a lesson that a lot of us have to learn several times. So these are just some of my thoughts about opportunities and what you have available to you. And if you have more questions, send me a DM. I love to chat with you all. I will talk to you soon.